The Valtheron Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their ships were faster than light itself. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their armies had conquered 400 star systems, and every species they met either bowed or died. The reptilian overlords of Valtheron believed they were the greatest civilization in the universe. They had never been wrong before. Supreme Chancellor Krathel sat on his throne made of crystallized starlight, watching reports from the outer territories. His scales gleamed purple and gold under the artificial suns of his palace. Today, his scouts had found something interesting. A small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The beings there called themselves humans. Krathel laughed when he saw the images. These humans looked weak, soft skin, no natural armor, no claws or fangs. Their ships were primitive, barely capable of reaching their own moon consistently. Their weapons were chemical explosives and simple lasers. The Chancellor had seen 1,000 species like this. They all ended the same way. He sent a message to Admiral Vexthor. Send a diplomatic vessel. Demand their surrender. Show them the might of the Empire. On Earth, the year was 2847. Humanity had spread to 12 colonies across their solar system. Mars held 5 million people. The moons of Jupiter housed mining operations. Venus was being terraformed slowly, but Earth remained home to 12 billion souls. President Ji-Wan Choi received the alien transmission in her office in Geneva. She was a woman of 60 years with silver hair and sharp eyes. She had led Earth through economic collapse and climate restoration. She knew how to face a crisis. But this was different. This was first contact. The Valtheron message was simple and cold. You will submit to the Empire. You will provide tribute. You will obey. Refusal means extinction. Ji-Wan called her council immediately. Among them was Commander Taemin Kang, the head of Earth's defense force. He was 45 with a stern face and gray streaking his black hair. He had spent 20 years preparing for this moment, though he had hoped it would never come. We should try diplomacy first, Ji-Wan said. We need to know what we're dealing with. Taemin nodded slowly. I agree, but we should prepare for the worst. Ambassador Hannah Park volunteered to lead the diplomatic mission. She was brilliant, speaking 12 Earth languages and known for her ability to find common ground. She believed all conflicts could be resolved through understanding. She took a small ship with a crew of 20 diplomats and scientists. They met the Valtheron vessel at the edge of Earth's solar system, near Neptune. The alien ship was massive, 10 times the size of their diplomatic craft. It looked like a spear made of black metal, with glowing red lines running along its hull. Hannah opened communication channels. Greetings from humanity. We come in peace. We wish to establish friendly relations with your empire. The response came 3 seconds later. The Valtheron admiral appeared on screen. His face was all sharp angles and cold eyes. There is no friendship with the empire. There is only service or death. You will board our ship and sign the treaty of submission. Hannah felt her heart race, but she kept her voice calm. We cannot agree to those terms without discussion. Perhaps we can find a middle ground that benefits both our peoples. The admiral's expression did not change. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. The screen went black. Then Hannah heard screaming from the lower decks. Valtheron soldiers had transported aboard their ship. The aliens moved through the corridors, weapons raised. Within minutes, all 20 diplomats were captured. Back on Earth, Taemin watched through the ship's emergency broadcast. He saw Hannah and her team forced to their knees in the Valtheron ship's cargo bay. He saw the alien admiral approach them slowly. You wanted to talk, the admiral said. So talk. Beg for your lives. Show the galaxy what human pride is worth. Hannah looked up at him. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were clear. We came in peace. Whatever you do to us, history will remember that. The admiral raised his weapon. History is written by the victors. The transmission cut out after the first shot. But the Valtheroth made sure the recording was broadcast across every communication channel in known space. They wanted every species to see what happened to those who refused the Empire. In her office, President Ji-Wan Choi watched the screen go dark. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk so hard her knuckles turned white. Around the world, 12 billion people watched the same thing. They saw their diplomats executed. They saw the aliens laugh. Taemin stood beside the president. His face showed no emotion, but inside rage burned like a star-going supernova. Hannah had been his friend for 20 years. She had believed in peace. She had died for that belief. Call the Earth Council, Ji-Wan said quietly. Call them now. Within 6 hours, every nation on Earth had sent representatives. They gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, where once they had debated climate policy and trade agreements. Now they debated survival. The Valtharoth have declared war on humanity, Jiwan began. They have murdered our diplomats. They have shown us their nature. Now we must decide our response. Some argued for surrender. The Empire is too powerful. We cannot win. Better to serve than to die. Others demanded immediate retaliation. We cannot let this stand. We must fight, Taman stepped forward. He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed ship designs, weapon specifications, and star charts that most of the Council had never seen before. For 30 years, he said, we have been preparing for this day. Since we achieved faster-than-light travel, we knew we would eventually meet other species. We hoped for friends, but we prepared for enemies. The hologram zoomed out, showing the outer solar system beyond Neptune. There in the darkness, massive shipyards floated in secret. Hundreds of vessels hung in the void, each one bristling with weapons. This is the hidden fleet, Taman continued. 500 warships, technology that we developed in secret. Away from any potential observers, quantum drives, singularity weapons, adaptive shielding. We are not as primitive as we appear. The Council stared in shocked silence. Even the President had not known the full extent of the preparations. Why did you hide this from us? Someone demanded. Why keep secrets from our own people? Because if we displayed such weapons openly, Taman said, we would have invited conflict. Better to seem weak and harmless until the moment we needed strength. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, it was unanimous. Earth would go to war. Not a war of conquest, but a war of survival. A war of retribution. Taman left the council chamber and went directly to the hidden fleet command station. It was buried deep beneath the surface of Saturn's moon Titan, connected by quantum communication to every ship in the fleet. He sent one message to all 500 captains. Activate all vessels. Prepare for combat operations. They killed our peacemakers. Now they will learn what humans do when you take away the option of peace. Across the outer solar system, the hidden fleet came to life. Engines that had been dormant for years roared to full power. Weapon systems that had only been tested now armed themselves for real combat. 500 ships began moving toward Earth, ready to defend their home. In the Valtharon Empire, Supreme Chancellor Krathel received news that his admiral had successfully executed the human diplomats. He smiled, satisfied. Another species had learned their place. He ordered a punishment fleet of 200 warships to Earth. They would bombard the planet from orbit until the humans surrendered completely. What Krathel did not know was that he had just made the worst mistake in the Empire's 3,000-year history. He had given humanity no choice but total war. And when humans fought with their backs against the wall, they did not fight to win. They fought to annihilate. Captain Minseo Lim stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching Neptune's blue surface through the viewport. She was 38 years old and had spent half her life training for a battle she hoped would never come. Now that battle was 3 hours away. The Valtharon punishment fleet had entered the solar system an hour ago. 200 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built before the hidden fleet. They were approaching Neptune in a standard imperial formation, confident and unhurried. They expected no real resistance. Minseo turned to her crew. All stations report readiness. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Hyajin Bey, looked up from her console. Weapons ready. Quantum drive charged. We have firing solutions on all enemy vessels. Good, Minseo said calmly. Remember the drill. We jump, we fire, we jump again. Do not stay in one place longer than 3 seconds. Around Neptune, 40 other human ships waited in stealth mode. They were invisible to Valtharon sensors, cloaked by technology that bent light and energy around them. The aliens had no idea they were flying into a trap. On Earth, in the command center beneath Titan, Commander Taman Kang watched the tactical display. Each red dot represented an enemy ship. Each blue dot was one of his vessels. He had spent 6 months planning this battle. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Dr. Yuna Song stood beside him. She was 42, with tired eyes and fingers stained with chemical burns from years in the laboratory. She had designed most of the weapons the fleet would use today. She had also attended Ambassador Hana Park's memorial service 3 days ago. Will it work? Taman asked quietly. Yuna nodded. The singularity cannons have a 97% success rate in testing. The quantum drives are reliable. The ships are ready. I did not ask about the ships, Taman said. I asked about you. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said Hana believed in peace. I believe in protecting those who remain. So yes, it will work. The Valtheron fleet reached Neptune's orbit. Admiral Vexthor, the same alien who had executed the human diplomats, stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was reviewing the attack plan, deciding which cities on Earth to destroy first. He thought about the fear he would create. It pleased him. His sensor officer suddenly spoke. Sir, I am detecting unusual readings near the fourth moon. Vexthor did not even look up. Space debris. This system is full of primitive satellites. Ignore it. The sensor officer frowned at his console. Sir, the readings are multiplying. I now count 40 distinct signatures. Before Vexthor could respond, the space around his fleet exploded with light. 40 human warships appeared from nowhere, materializing in perfect attack positions. They had jumped using quantum displacement, appearing exactly where they wanted to be. Minseo gave the order. Fire all weapons. The Indomitable unleashed everything it had. Singularity cannons fired beams of concentrated gravitational force that tore through Valtheron shields like paper. Plasma torpedoes followed, burning at temperatures that matched the surface of stars. Railguns accelerated solid slugs to a fraction of light speed, punching through armor plating designed to withstand nuclear weapons. The first Valtheron ship exploded before it could even raise shields. The second managed to return fire, but its shots hit empty space. The Indomitable had already jumped to a new position 2 kilometers away. All across the battle space, the same scene repeated. Human ships appeared, fired devastating volleys, then vanished before the aliens could counterattack. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Vexthor screamed orders at his crew. Return fire! All ships spread out and engage. But his captains were panicking. They had never faced an enemy that could teleport. Their formations broke apart as ships tried to maneuver, making them easier targets for the humans. Lieutenant Hyejin Bei worked her console with fierce concentration. Target acquired. Target destroyed. Jumping. New target acquired. She had practiced this sequence 10,000 times. Now it was real, and it felt like a dance. A Valtheron battleship managed to fire its main weapon at the Indomitable. The beam was powerful enough to vaporize a city, but Minseo had already given the jump command. The Indomitable vanished, and the beam hit one of the aliens' own ships instead, destroying it. On Titan, Taman watched the battle unfold. His ships were winning, but he felt no joy. Each destroyed enemy vessel meant hundreds of alien lives ended. He had not wanted this war, but now that it had begun, he would finish it. Dr. Yuna Song pulled up damage reports. 3 human ships had taken hits. 1 had minor hull damage. Another had lost shields but was still fighting. The third had been forced to retreat. Against 200 enemy vessels, humanity was winning with minimal losses. The battle lasted 3 hours. By the end, 199 Valtheron ships were destroyed. Debris from the wrecks formed new rings around Neptune, glittering in the distant sunlight. Only 1 enemy vessel remained intact, its engines crippled but life support functioning. Minseo contacted the damaged ship. This is Captain Minseo Lim of the United Earth Defense Force. You have witnessed what happens when you attack humanity. You will return to your empire. You will tell them what you saw here. You will deliver a message. There was a long silence. Then Admiral Vexthor's face appeared on screen. His scales were burned and one of his eyes was swollen shut. The arrogance was gone, replaced by fear. What message? He whispered. Minseo's voice was cold as the void. You executed our diplomats. You declared war on humanity. Now you will learn what humans do when pushed to the edge. We are coming for you. All of you. She cut the transmission. Engineers from one of the human ships transported to the Valtheron vessel and repaired its jump drive just enough to reach the edge of the Empire. Then they let it go. Vexthor's ship limped away into deep space, carrying its message of defeat. On Earth, President Ji-Wan Choi addressed the planet. Billions watched on screens in their homes, in the streets, in shelters where they had hidden during the battle. Today, humanity won its first victory, she said. But this is only the beginning. The Valtheron Empire will not accept defeat easily. They will send more ships, larger fleets. They will try to destroy us completely. She paused, letting her words sink in. So we will not wait for them to come to us. We will take this war to them. We will strike at their shipyards, their supply lines, their military bases. We will show them that humanity cannot be conquered. We will show them that we do not bow. The broadcast ended, but her final words echoed across the planet. We came in peace. They brought war. We will finish it. Commander Taemin Kang stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire galaxy. Red markers indicated Valtheron territory. Blue markers showed human colonies. Between them stretched thousands of light years of space. He began planning the next phase of the war. His staff worked around him, coordinating with shipyards to build more vessels, with scientists to develop better weapons, with intelligence officers to map enemy positions. Engineer Junho Kim arrived from the research station on Mars. He was 35, brilliant with machines, able to look at any technology and understand how to improve it. He brought new designs for ship modifications that would make the fleet even more deadly. Captain Minseo Lim and her crew returned to Titan for resupply. As she walked through the corridors of the command station, other officers saluted her. She had led the first battle and won decisively, but she felt no pride. She had killed thousands today. The fact that they were enemies did not make it easier. Lieutenant Hyejin Bei found her in the observation deck looking at the stars. "Are you all right, Captain?" Minseo did not turn around. "I joined the military to protect people. Today I learned I am very good at killing them." Hyejin stood beside her. "They killed Ambassador Park. They would have killed all of us if we let them." "I know," Minseo said. "That is what makes it necessary. But necessity does not make it right." Far away in the Valtheron Empire, Admiral Vexthor's damaged ship arrived at the capital world. He was immediately arrested and brought before Supreme Chancellor Krathel. The Chancellor listened to his report in disbelieving silence. "Impossible," Krathel finally said. "These humans are primitive. Your fleet was 200 strong." Vexthor lowered his head. "They have technology we have never seen. Ships that can appear and disappear at will. Weapons that tear through our shields. We were outmatched from the first second." Krathel's rage exploded. He killed 3 guards in his fury, his claws ripping through their armor. Then he composed himself and made a decision. "Summon the Grand Fleet," he ordered. "Every warship in the Empire. 2,000 vessels. We will crush these humans before they become a true threat." But in his private chambers that night, Krathel felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Admiral Daehyun Shin was 70 years old and had never fired a shot in anger before the war began. He had spent his career teaching strategy at the military academy on Earth, writing papers about theoretical conflicts with alien species. Now those theories were being tested in blood and fire. He stood before Commander Taemin Kang's council with a proposal that many thought was insane. "We cannot win a defensive war," Daehyun said. "The Empire has 2,000 warships and controls 400 star systems. If we wait for them to attack, they will eventually overwhelm us through sheer numbers." "Then what do you suggest?" Taemin asked. "We attack first," Daehyun replied. "Not their military. Their infrastructure. We destroy their shipyards so they cannot build more vessels. We cut their supply lines so their fleets cannot refuel. We strike at communication hubs so they cannot coordinate. We make the Empire too busy defending itself to threaten Earth." President Ji-won Choi looked at the star maps. "That means traveling thousands of light years into enemy territory. Our ships would be alone with no support." "Yes," Daehyun agreed. "It is dangerous, but it is also our only path to victory." After 6 hours of debate, the plan was approved. The human fleet would split into 5 strike groups. Each group would target different areas of the Empire, moving constantly, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to trap them. Captain Sun Woo Han led the first strike group. He was 41, calm under pressure and known for his ability to think 3 steps ahead. His target was the Kelvara shipyards, where 40% of Valtheron warships were constructed. The journey took 2 weeks through hyperspace. When his 20 ships emerged near Kelvara, they found massive orbital platforms surrounding a gas giant. Each platform was the size of a small city, with construction bays that held partially built warships. Sunwoo studied the tactical display. There were 50 defensive platforms and a garrison fleet of 30 vessels. His 20 ships were outnumbered, but they had surprise. "All ships," he transmitted, "follow attack pattern Delta. Quantum jumps every 4 seconds. Target the construction platforms first." His fleet materialized inside the shipyard's defensive perimeter. The Valtheron defenders scrambled to respond, but they had never trained for enemies that could teleport. Human ships jumped from platform to platform, firing singularity cannons at critical structural points. Within an hour, 12 construction platforms were destroyed. The garrison fleet managed to destroy 2 human ships, but they paid for it with 18 of their own. Sunwoo's remaining vessels jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. The Kelvara shipyards burned for 3 days. The Empire had lost nearly half its ship construction capacity in a single attack. Commander Yunji Nam led the second strike group to the supply depot at Thexara Prime. She was 39, with a reputation for precision and an ability to find weaknesses in any defense. Her target was a massive station that stored fuel and supplies for the entire eastern border of the Empire. Yunji's approach was different from Sunwoo's. She did not attack directly. Instead, her ships mined the approach vectors with quantum explosives that would detonate when any ship came near. Then she broadcast a message to the station. "This is Commander Yunji Nam. Your station is surrounded by mines. Any ship that tries to leave or enter will be destroyed. You have 2 choices. Surrender and we will evacuate you safely, or stay and starve." The station commander chose to fight. He sent his defensive fleet to clear the mines. They lost 16 ships to the explosives before retreating. After 3 days of siege, the station surrendered. Yunji kept her word and evacuated all personnel before destroying the facility. Across the galaxy, similar attacks occurred. Captain Minseo Lim struck at communication relay stations, leaving entire sectors unable to coordinate with each other. Lieutenant Hyejin Bei led fighter wings that raided supply convoys, destroying cargo ships and leaving military outposts without resources. In the Valtheron capital, Supreme Chancellor Krathel watched reports flood in from every corner of the Empire. Attack at Sector 7, shipyard destroyed. Attack at Sector 12, communication hub offline. Attack at Sector 20, supply depot captured. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. His grand fleet of 2,000 warships sat idle because there was no target to attack. Earth itself was too well defended now, and his ships could not catch the human strike groups. How are they moving so quickly? Krathel demanded of his scientists. One brave researcher explained about quantum displacement technology. It allows instantaneous movement across short distances. They appear, strike, and vanish before we can respond. Then develop our own quantum drives, Krathel ordered. The scientist lowered his head. We have tried, Supreme Chancellor. The technology is beyond our current understanding. It will take years, perhaps decades, to replicate. Krathel killed the scientist on the spot. Then he summoned his military council. We must draw them into a battle we can win. What do the humans value most? One admiral suggested. Their colonies. If we threaten their civilians, they will come to defend them. Krathel smiled. Send the Grand Fleet to the human colony at New Busan. We will destroy it. When the humans come to save it, we will crush them. On Titan, Commander Taemin Kang received intelligence from an unexpected source. A message came through quantum communication, encrypted and anonymous. It contained the Valtheron attack plan for New Busan. Who sent this? Taemin asked. Dr. Yuna Song analyzed the message. The encryption is not human or Valtheron. This came from a third party, someone within the Empire who wants us to win. Taemin did not hesitate. Send word to all strike groups. Return to defend New Busan and find out who our mysterious ally is. The answer came a week later. A ship appeared near Neptune flying no flag. It transmitted a message in perfect human language. We are the Artheon Collective, silicon-based beings who have served the Empire as slaves for 800 years. Your war has inspired hope in many oppressed species. We offer you information about enemy movements. In return, we ask only that you remember us when this war ends. President Ji-won Choi authorized the alliance immediately. The Artheons began providing detailed intelligence on Valtheron fleet positions, supply routes, and military capabilities. It was a turning point in the war. At New Busan, the colonists evacuated to underground shelters. The colony held 2 million people, all of them dependent on the military to protect them. The Valtheron Grand Fleet arrived in overwhelming force. 1,500 warships surrounded the planet. But humanity was ready. The 5 strike groups had reunited, bringing together 250 ships. They were outnumbered 6-1, but they had better technology and better tactics. Lieutenant Heejin Bei led her fighter wing through the enemy formation, dodging fire from massive battleships. Her mission was to destroy their command vessel's sensor array. It was suicide, and she knew it. Her wing of 30 fighters dove toward the enemy flagship. 22 were destroyed by defensive fire, but the remaining 8, including Heejin's, reached their target. They fired missiles at point-blank range before jumping away. The enemy flagship went blind. Without sensors, it could not coordinate the rest of the fleet. The Valtheron formation fell into chaos. Captain Minseo Lim took advantage of the confusion. Her battle group jumped directly into the center of the enemy fleet and opened fire in all directions. The aliens had never encountered such an insane tactic. They fired at the human ships but hit their own vessels just as often. Engineer Junho Kim's modifications proved vital. The human shields could absorb tremendous punishment and regenerate quickly. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. The battle for New Busan lasted 7 hours. When it ended, the Valtheron Grand Fleet had lost 400 ships and retreated in disorder. The human fleet lost 40 vessels but held the planet. Heejin returned to the Indomitable with only 3 other fighters from her original wing. She removed her helmet with shaking hands. Captain Minseo met her in the hangar bay. "You saved 2 million lives today," Minseo said quietly. "I lost 27 pilots," Heejin replied. "I can name every one of them, so can I," Minseo said. "And we will remember them. But right now we need you to train the next generation." Across the Empire, other species watched humanity's victories and began their own rebellions. The insectoid Kixthar, who had been forced to serve as soldiers, turned their weapons on their Valtheron commanders. The aquatic Nereids sabotaged ships in their home system. The Silicon Artheons provided more intelligence, helping human strike groups target the most important facilities. Supreme Chancellor Krathel realized with growing horror that his empire was collapsing. Not from external conquest, but from internal revolt inspired by the humans. He made a desperate decision. "Summon the Grand Fleet," he ordered. "All remaining ships. We will attack Earth directly. If we destroy their homeworld, the rebellions will end." The Grand Fleet gathered at the edge of Valtheron space. 1,100 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in one place. They began the long jump toward the human home system. Commander Taemin Kang received word of the fleet's movement from the Artheons. He looked at the tactical display and knew this would be the final battle. The Empire was gambling everything on one massive attack. Humanity would do the same. He sent a message to all human ships, all colonies, all defense stations. "Return to Earth." Commander Taemin Kang stood in the command center beneath Titan, staring at a display that showed 1,100 red dots approaching Earth. The Valtheron Grand Fleet would arrive in 6 hours. Around him, officers worked frantically to coordinate defenses. Admiral Daehyun Shin approached with a different plan. His old eyes were bright with the kind of mad inspiration that came from desperation. "We should not defend Earth," he said. "We should attack them." Everyone in the room stopped and stared. President Ji-won Choi, who had come to Titan for the final battle, spoke carefully. "Admiral, that is suicide. They outnumber us 5 to 1. Daehyun smiled. "Exactly. They expect us to dig in and defend. Instead, we will do what humans do best. We will attack where we are not expected. We will strike at their home while they strike at ours." Taemin understood immediately. The Valtheron capital system will be nearly undefended. "They have sent everything to destroy Earth." "Yes," Daehyun said. "We split our forces. Half stays to defend Earth. Half jumps directly to Valtheron Prime and destroys their government. When their fleet learns their home is under attack, they will have to choose between conquering Earth or saving their own world." It was insane. It was brilliant. It might be the only way to win. President Ji-won gave her approval. "Do it." The human fleet divided. 300 ships under Captain Minseo Lim would defend Earth. 350 ships under Commander Taemin Kang would jump to the enemy capital. It was the biggest gamble humanity had ever made. Captain Sun Woo-han commanded the vanguard for the attack on Valtheron Prime. His 20 ships jumped first, appearing in the outer system to scout defenses. What he found shocked him. The capital was nearly empty. Only 200 warships remained to defend the most important planet in the Empire. The Valtheroth had committed everything to destroying Earth. Sunwoo transmitted to Taemin, "Path is clear. Defenses are minimal. We can hit them hard." The rest of the human attack fleet jumped in. 330 ships materialized in the Valtheron system, and immediately engaged the defenders. The battle was swift and brutal. Within an hour, half the defending ships were destroyed. But the real target was not the military. It was the planet itself, specifically the massive command center where Supreme Chancellor Krathel ruled. The building was shielded, fortified, designed to survive anything short of planetary destruction. Dr. Yuna Song had designed something special for this moment. She called it the Cascade Torpedo. It did not destroy targets with explosives or energy. Instead, it created a chain reaction at the molecular level. Matter simply came apart, spreading to nearby objects like a disease. This is genocide, Captain Minseo had argued when Yuna first proposed the weapon. We cannot use this. It is targeted, Yuna had replied coldly. It affects only the structure we aim at. And sometimes, to save millions, we must be willing to do terrible things. Now, above Valtheron Prime, Commander Taemin Kang gave the order he had hoped never to give. Launch the Cascade torpedoes. Target the Chancellor's command center only. 10 torpedoes fell from orbit. They looked like small stars, glowing with barely contained energy. When they struck the command center, the building began to disintegrate. The effect spread slowly but inevitably, reducing the massive structure to dust. Everyone inside died instantly, including Supreme Chancellor Krathel Taemin watched the command center vanish and felt nothing. He had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But the war had required it. At Earth, the Valtheron Grand Fleet arrived to find 300 human ships waiting in defensive positions around the planet. The alien commander, Admiral Drexnall, saw his numerical advantage and smiled. This would be easy. He was wrong. Captain Minseo Lim had spent weeks preparing Earth's defenses. The planet was surrounded by thousands of automated defense platforms, each mounting weapons as powerful as those on warships. Minefields filled the space between Earth and the Moon. Orbital fortresses bristled with railguns and missile batteries. When the Valtheron fleet moved to attack, they flew into a storm of fire. Defense platforms opened up from every angle. Mines detonated, destroying dozens of ships before they could react. The orbital fortresses concentrated fire on the larger enemy vessels, burning through shields and armor. But the aliens kept coming. They had the numbers to absorb losses and keep fighting. Admiral Drexnall pushed his fleet forward, determined to reach Earth's surface and begin bombardment. Lieutenant Heejin Bae launched with 200 fighters from carriers hidden behind the Moon. Her pilots were the best humanity had, veterans of a dozen battles. They dove into the enemy formation like wolves among sheep. Heejin's fighter was small and fast. She dodged between massive battleships, firing missiles at their engines and sensor arrays. Around her, other pilots did the same. They could not destroy the big ships, but they could blind and cripple them. One Valtheron battleship caught Heejin in its sights, its main weapon charged, ready to vaporize her fighter. But engineer Junho Kim had installed experimental jamming systems in the fighters. Heejin activated it, and the battleship's targeting systems went haywire. The massive beam fired in the wrong direction, hitting another enemy vessel. Captain Minseo commanded the Indomitable from the center of the defensive line. Her ship absorbed terrible punishment, shields flaring as enemy weapons struck again and again. But Junho's modifications held. The shields regenerated almost as fast as they took damage. All ships, she transmitted, focus fire on their command vessel. Kill their leader and the rest will break. The human fleet concentrated everything on Admiral Drexnall's flagship. Singularity cannons tore at its shields. Plasma torpedoes burned into its hull. Railgun slugs punched through its armor. The massive ship tried to maneuver away, but it was too slow. The flagship exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Admiral Drexnall died instantly, along with 3,000 crew members. At that exact moment, the Valtheron fleet received news from their home world. Their capital was under attack. The Chancellor was dead. The command center was destroyed. Humanity had struck at their heart while they attacked Earth. The alien fleet fell into chaos. Some ships tried to continue the attack. Others turned to jump back home. The formation collapsed. Ships collided with each other in their panic. Minseo saw the confusion and pressed the advantage. All ships, attack pattern Omega. No mercy. The human fleet tore into the disorganized aliens. Ships that tried to fight were destroyed. Ships that tried to flee were hunted down. The battle turned into a rout. In the Valtheron system, Commander Taemin Kang received word that Earth was winning. He looked at the ruined command center on the planet below and made a decision broadcast to all enemy forces in this system. He ordered, "This is Commander Taman Kang of Earth. Your Chancellor is dead. Your capital is defenseless. Your fleet at Earth has been defeated. The war is over. You can continue fighting and die, or you can surrender and live. Choose now." The remaining Valtheron ships in the capital system stopped fighting. One by one, they transmitted their surrender. The war was not quite over, but the Empire's back was broken at Earth. The battle continued for another hour, but with their command structure destroyed and their leadership dead, the Valtheron fleet had no coordination. Human forces systematically destroyed or captured every enemy ship. When silence finally fell, the space around Earth was filled with debris. Nearly 400 Valtheron warships had been destroyed. Humanity had lost 80 ships with another 40 damaged but repairable. Captain Minseo Lim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable looking at the wreckage. They had won. Earth was safe, but the cost had been terrible. Thousands of human crew members dead, tens of thousands of aliens killed. The moral weight of it pressed down on her like gravity from a collapsing star. Lieutenant Hijin Bei's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, we are receiving surrender transmissions from all across the galaxy. The Artheons report that rebellions have succeeded in 20 systems. The Kixthar have declared independence. The Empire is collapsing." Minseo closed her eyes. "We won," she said quietly, but she did not feel victorious. Commander Taman Kang's fleet remained in orbit over Valtheron Prime. He watched as the planet below descended into chaos. Without leadership, the military could not coordinate. Without the Chancellor, the government could not function. The empire that had lasted 3,000 years was dying. Admiral Daehyun Shin stood beside him. "What do we do now, Commander?" Taman thought about Ambassador Hana Park, who had believed in peace. He thought about all the people who had died in this war, human and alien alike. He thought about what humanity would become after this. "Now," he said, "we try to be better than they were. We help rebuild. We establish peace. We make sure this never happens again." President Ji-won Choi addressed Earth from the command center. "The war is won," she announced. "The Valtheron Empire has fallen. But our work is not finished. We must now build something better. Not another empire. A federation of free peoples. A galaxy where no species is slave to another. Across human space, people celebrated in the streets. But in the military command centers, the officers who had fought the war knew the hard truth. They had won by becoming killers. They had saved humanity by destroying their enemies completely. The victory was real, but it was also hollow. The question now was simple and terrifying. What would humanity do with its power? 3 months after the war ended, Commander Taman Kang stood in a conference hall on Earth that had been built specifically for this moment. Representatives from 40 species filled the seats, species that had been slaves or subjects of the Valtheron Empire. Now they were here to decide the future of the galaxy. President Ji-won Choi opened the session with words she had written herself. "We did not fight this war to become conquerors. We fought because we were attacked. We fought because we believed every species has the right to be free. Now we offer you that freedom with no strings attached." The representatives looked at each other uncertainly. They had lived under the Empire for so long that freedom felt strange and frightening. Finally, an Artheon representative spoke. Its silicon body glittered under the lights. "You have the military power to rule us all," it said in its synthesized voice. "Why do you not take that power?" Ji-won smiled sadly. "Because we remember what it feels like to be threatened with slavery. We will not become what we fought against." Over the next week, the conference drafted the Federation Charter. It was a simple document based on principles that humanity had learned through centuries of struggle. Every species had the right to govern itself. No species could enslave or conquer another. Disputes would be settled through negotiation, not war. A council of equals would handle matters that affected all species. The charter was not perfect, but it was fair. 40 species signed it on the first day. The Galactic Federation was born, but not everything was peaceful. On Valtheron Prime, the surviving members of the old government refused to accept defeat. They called themselves the Restoration Front and gathered a fleet of 200 ships that had escaped the final battle. They planned to retake their empire by force. Captain Sun Wuhan led the response. His strike group jumped to intercept the Restoration fleet near the ruins of the Kelvara shipyards. But instead of attacking immediately, he opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Sun Wuhan. You cannot win this fight. Your empire is gone. Your leaders are dead. You can die trying to restore what is lost, or you can live and help build something new. The choice is yours." The restoration commander was an old admiral named Thexnol. He had served the empire for 60 years. His voice was bitter when he replied, "We were mighty once. We ruled the galaxy. Now you offer us charity?" "Not charity," Sun Wu said. "A chance to be part of something better. The empire made you strong through fear. The Federation offers strength through cooperation. Which would you prefer for your children?" There was a long silence. Then slowly, the restoration ships powered down their weapons. Admiral Thexnol surrendered. But he had one question. "What will you do with us? Will you execute us for our crimes?" Sun Wu thought about all the death he had seen in the war. "No more killing," he said. "You will face justice, but you will live. That is the difference between the Empire and the Federation." The trials began in the 4th month after the war. The surviving Valtheron leadership was charged with war crimes for the execution of human diplomats and the attempted genocide of Earth. Commander Taemin Kang testified at the proceedings, describing the moment he watched Ambassador Hana Park die. The courtroom was silent as he spoke. When he finished, even some of the defendants looked ashamed. The trials lasted 6 months. Most of the Valtheron leaders were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. A few who had opposed the war or protected civilians were pardoned. Admiral Thexnol received a sentence of 20 years, reduced because he had surrendered peacefully. But justice for the past did not erase the damage of the present. Dozens of worlds had been devastated by the war. Shipyards were ruined. Supply lines were broken. Millions of beings were refugees without homes. Captain Minseo Lim volunteered to lead the reconstruction effort. She took her ship, the Indomitable, to war-torn planets and helped rebuild infrastructure. Her crew, trained for combat, now learned to construct hospitals and schools. It was harder than fighting, but it felt more important. On the Artheon homeworld, she worked alongside the Silicon beings to restore their mining operations. The Artheons had been forced to give all their resources to the Empire. Now they could use those resources for themselves. An Artheon elder approached Minseo while she was inspecting a repair site. "Why do you help us?" it asked. "Your war is won. You owe us nothing." Minseo looked at the damaged mining facility. Because winning the war was only half the job, building the peace is the other half. If we only destroy and never build, what was the point of fighting? The Artheon made a sound like chiming bells, which was their version of laughter. "You humans are strange, but perhaps that is why you will succeed where the Empire failed." Lieutenant Hijin Bei took a different path after the war. She became an instructor at the new Federation Military Academy on Mars. Her job was to train pilots from all species in the tactics that had won the war. But she also taught them something else. Flying is easy, she told her mixed class of human, Artheon, and Kickstar students. Knowing when not to fly, when to talk instead of shoot, that is the hard part. You are warriors, but you are also peacekeepers. Remember the difference. Her students respected her because she had fought in the worst battles and survived. But they loved her because she treated all species equally. To her, it did not matter if you were human or alien. What mattered was your character. Dr. Unisong closed down her weapons research laboratory and opened the Quantum Research Institute. Its mission was to take the technology developed for war and adapt it for peace. Quantum drives that had allowed ships to jump in combat now made trade and travel between stars easy and cheap. Singularity technology that had powered cannons now provided clean energy to planets. She stood in her new laboratory on Europa, watching young scientists from a dozen species work on projects that would improve life across the galaxy. One day, engineer Junho Kim visited her. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Building the weapons that killed so many?" Yuna was quiet for a long time. "Every day," she finally said. "But I do not apologize. The weapons were necessary. Without them, humanity would have been enslaved or destroyed. But now we have a responsibility to make sure such weapons are never needed again." Junho nodded. "That is why I left weapons development too. I design medical equipment now. Machines that heal instead of harm." Together, they worked on a project to clean up the debris fields around Neptune, where the first battle had been fought. It would take years, but eventually the space where so many had died would be clear and safe for travel. Commander Taemin Kang retired from active military service and became the first Secretary General of the Federation Council. His job was to mediate disputes between species and ensure the charter was followed. It was frustrating work, nothing like the clear objectives of military operations, but it was important. One day, President Ji-won Choi visited him in his office on the Federation space station. She was stepping down as president of Earth to take a position as an ambassador. They had both served through the entire war and both felt its weight. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked. "All the death and destruction. Could we have found another way?" Taemin looked out at the stars. "I think about that every day. Maybe if we had been stronger sooner, the Empire would not have attacked. Maybe if we had responded differently to their first contact, war could have been avoided. But we cannot change the past. We can only work to make the future better." Ji-won smiled. "That is very wise. When did you become a philosopher?" "When I became responsible for building peace instead of winning wars," Taemin replied. "War is simple. Peace is complicated. On Valtheron Prime, a memorial was built at the site of the destroyed command center. It bore the names of everyone who had died in the war, both human and alien. At the top of the list were the names of Ambassador Hannah Park and the 19 diplomats who died with her. The inscription read, 'They came in peace. We brought war. They finished it. May we learn from this and never repeat it.'" Captain Sun Woo-han attended the memorial dedication ceremony. He stood beside former Admiral Thexanol, who had been released early from prison for his cooperation in rebuilding. The two former enemies looked at the names on the memorial. "I knew some of these people," Thexanol said quietly, pointing at Valtheron names. "Good soldiers who followed bad orders." "So did I," Sun Woo replied, pointing at human names. "Good people who died too young." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Thexanol spoke again. "What do we do now? How do we honor them?" "We do not have another war," Sun Woo said simply. "We make this peace last. That is the only way to honor what they sacrificed years past." The Federation grew stronger. More species joined, attracted by the promise of equality and freedom. Trade routes opened between worlds that had once been enemies. Cultural exchanges brought new ideas and perspectives. Children of different species played together in parks on colony worlds, learning that their differences were interesting rather than threatening. Admiral Daehyun Shin lived to see his 80th birthday. He spent his final years teaching at the academy, sharing the lessons of the war with students who had been born after it ended. His last lecture was recorded and became required viewing for all Federation military officers. "War is easy to start and hard to stop," he told his students. "Peace is hard to start and easy to lose. Guard it carefully. Remember that your weapons exist to prevent war."